Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Rink, and I'm really excited to be sharing with you the debut of a brand new product, something that we're calling PEPR. And it's all about getting the right Confluence documents to the right people. Before I jump into that, in case you missed it, there was some pretty big news about Kamala Tech. Kamala Tech has joined forces with AppFire. So Kamala Tech is now a part of the larger AppFire family. And I can tell you that the Kamala Tech team is very excited for what we're going to be able to do now that we're a part of such a well-known, well-respected team. And I think over the coming months, you're going to see some pretty exciting developments from our products, especially now that we have access to the kind of resources that AppFire has. And one of the products that I think is going to benefit the most from this new relationship is our newest product, PEPR. PEPR is all about getting the right Confluence documents to the right people. We've built PEPR as an app for both Confluence Cloud and for Confluence Data Center. And we actually first came up with the idea for this product during the pandemic. One of our team members, his wife is a nurse, and she was talking to him about how, if you think back to those early days of the pandemic, there was a lot of uncertainty and there were new policies and procedures coming out every day as far as personal protection and as far as testing procedures. And so she was having, not only her, but her and her fellow nurses were having a difficult time staying on top of what the latest documentation was. And so we envisioned this product that would help get the right documents, documents that have been vetted and are meant to be the published documents, into the hands of these stakeholders and users, the people in the field who are getting work done. And so this was the vision that inspired us to create PEPR. But to show you how it works, I'm actually going to start with a bit of a different use case, maybe one that you're familiar with. It's about sharing an employee handbook. I'm sure many people who are watching this have their own handbooks that they have as a part of being a member of their team. Quite often these handbooks have policies and procedures and different things that the team members have to reference on a regular basis. But one of the things that we've noted, especially being a team that has offices in multiple locations, is you need to have separate handbooks depending on which team you're talking about and potentially where this team is located. So let's take a look at how PEPR can help you organize your content to be able to share it easily with team members and make sure that everybody has those latest employee handbooks at their fingertips. Like I said, it's available for cloud and data center. And if you're used to Confluence as a tool, some of what I'm going to talk about is somewhat familiar. But we do introduce a new type of organization to your Confluence content. PEPR introduces the concept of libraries and of collections. So you can think of libraries as a set of documents that are alike somehow. If you've used Confluence before, you might draw a parallel between libraries and spaces, depending on how you organize your content. But the idea is that you put like content together. So in this case, when we're talking about employee handbooks, it would be all of your HR documentation. So you would create a repository, what we call a library, of all of those HR docs. You can see in the screenshot I've attached here, in the left-hand side are all the various HR documents organized into a library. Now on the right-hand side, you see something called collections. Now, collections are document sets. They're sets of the documents in your library that are organized for sharing with a specific audience. So in this case, we've got a handbook for our team members in Vancouver, and we've got a handbook for our team members in Bilbao. Some of the content is the same, it's the same pages. Some of the content is different depending on the specific offices. You can easily determine which content goes in which collection just by dragging and dropping it from the library into the collections. Now, for each collection, you can tweak who is able to see them. You can set individual permissions for each collection. What you're seeing here is specifically the Vancouver Employee Handbook. And I, as a member of that Confluence group, would be able to see the Vancouver Employee Handbook. But if I wasn't a member of, say, the Bilbao Employee Confluence group, then I wouldn't be able to see their collection. So you're able to very finely tune who can see what collection based on what Confluence group is added. Now, these documents can be shared. There's a blue share button you can see right there to to generate an email link that you can easily send to team members to have them see it. But we also add a little element on the Confluence homepage that includes any collections that user's been added to. So as soon as I hit the Confluence homepage, I'm going to have immediate access to those documents that have been shared with me inside PEPR Collections. So how do you get your documents into these libraries? Well, it's very simple. There's a small UI element that's added to Confluence that allows you to publish your documents right into the library. You obviously have to set that connection as to which library it goes to first, but once you've done that, it's just a matter of pressing publish. And then anywhere that document has been added as a collection, that same document is going to get updated. Now, what's interesting is that as soon as you add a page to a Confluence, to a PEPR collection, PEPR takes a snapshot of the Confluence page at that given time. Once you press publish, it takes a snapshot of the content, the macros, the images, the tables. Everything as it is in that moment is saved, and that is what is displayed inside the collection. So that way, when team members view these documents inside the collections, they only see the most recently published version. So if you've got a document that you're working on that's a live document, maybe you have an existing policy that you're updating, your team can be in there making changes to the Confluence document, but your end users, the people who see the documents in the collection, aren't going to see those changes until you publish it again. So it's a great way of separating your draft and your published content and ensuring that your readers are only seeing the right documents. The other neat thing about that is that the macros are static. Well, the pages themselves are static, but specifically, the macros are static. That's something that if you've used Confluence for a while, can be a bit of a challenge if you're looking at previous versions of a page or you're trying to get a snapshot of a page at a given time. Macros are very dynamic. But with PEPR, it takes a snapshot of that page, of those macros as they are in that moment, ensuring that whatever you want people to see in that moment is what they'll see for as long as you want until the next time you publish the page. Now, we are working on adding more macros to what can be supported, but currently, PEPR will support all the standard Confluence macros. These are things like the include macro. You can see in the screenshot that I've added a sample status macro. It will also take snapshots of Jira issue links. So if your Jira issue links need to be associated to a page at a given time, you'll be able to see the issue link as it was when the page was published, not just a live issue link. And we're also hoping that over time, we can work with other marketplace partners to integrate their apps into PEPR, so that, say, if you were making a diagram with Draw.io, when you publish the page to a library, it would then take a snapshot of the diagram at the moment that you published it, so that it's not just a dynamic diagram that's changing all the time. It's saved in that moment. Now, if this was all that PEPR did, I think a lot of people would say to themselves, yeah, okay, I can see how having content frozen in time is valuable, and I can see how separating my published from my draft documentation is useful. But for us, it didn't completely solve that use case that we started with our team member's wife, the nurse. Her issue wasn't just that she wasn't sure which documentation was up to date. It was that she, working on the hospital floor, didn't always have access to a workstation to get the latest documentation. We know that the modern workforce is not always sitting in front of a machine, in front of a workstation where they can get the latest documentation. But we know that much of the work documentation that we digest comes from mobile devices. And so it was important to us that PEPR reflect the modern workplace. And that's why we developed a companion app to go with PEPR for Confluence, so that team members in the field would have access to those published documents whenever they needed them. So we built PEPR Mobile. It's available for both iOS and Android devices, and your team members will download the app to their phones. You can connect it to your Confluence instance, and then the documents that are shared via collections to the groups you belong to will be available right on your phone. And of course, just like the rest of the Confluence documents that are published into libraries, you only see the latest published version through the mobile app. So this is a great way of making sure that team members are working from the version of the document that you want them to work from, not just the latest version that's sitting in Confluence, but the version that you wanted to publish. And just like our content that's in Confluence itself, macros are rendered inside the mobile device as they were when you published them. So you're seeing that version of the macro that was important for you to publish at a given time. We didn't stop there with the mobile app, though. We also wanted to allow you to assign team members to read documents through the mobile app. So we're picturing team members, riding the bus, and there's a new employee policy that's published through their HR team. They can then open up their phone, read the document, and be prompted to actually confirm that they've read this document. In our situation, I'm sure your situation is the same. Quite often, you need to capture these read confirmations on your employee documents when you're talking about important policies or procedures. Now, instead of needing to be in front of a computer or having to sign something, you can just press a button inside the app, and that will confirm that you've read that document. And then your HR team can keep track of who has read them and who hasn't. Another thing that we added to the mobile app was the ability to favorite documents. So if there's a page in a collection that you're working with all the time, you can favorite it to have easy access to it. And we also created an offline mode. For us, we're from Canada, so there's certainly plenty of people we know who have to work in areas that are away from cell phone coverage, away from any kind of cellular network. In those cases, you need to have your documentation at your fingertips. You can't be connecting to a server to get it. For those kinds of scenarios, we offer an offline mode that allows you to download documents into your mobile device, so you can take them where you need them. Again, it was all about getting those documents to people where they're actually doing the work, not just tied down to a workstation, but always in the palm of their hand when they need them. So we talked about the use case of employee handbooks, but that's certainly not the only use case that we have in mind or that we've envisioned would be useful for PEPR customers. We think that teams working in building quality documents, creating QMS systems, might like to use PEPR to share those repositories with auditors who are in charge of ISO standards or FDA guidelines, etc. Or situations where you need to share documents with people who are outside your team. You may have security policies in place that don't allow certain members to have direct access to your Confluence instance, but maybe through a system like PEPR, you'd be able to give them access to documents without them being right inside of your Confluence system. And then obviously there's the one that we talked about initially with the nurses, those frontline medical providers who need to have access to SOPs and policies that are up to date and are right at their fingertips. And I don't think these are the only use cases. Over time, we're going to be speaking with more potential customers. We're going to be speaking with more people in the Atlassian marketplace, and we're hoping to learn even more ideas where PEPR might be able to find a great home. If you have ideas about where we might be able to take PEPR in the future, or if you have questions, or if you're interested in being a part of our beta program, I would absolutely love to hear from you. Please feel free to reach out to me. My email address is on the screen there. I am certainly excited to be able to bring PEPR to you on behalf of our entire team. We have big plans for what we think the app can do, and certainly if there's information I can provide that will help you do more about getting the right documents to the right people, then I'd be excited to have those conversations with you. But otherwise, let me just say thanks so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.